Welcome to the Meltzone Podcast of December 16th, 2018. I had to check that. I'm Tom.
And I'm Stefan. And today we're going to talk about our current projects that we are working on. On other news, we will talk about the new Makerbot method that was just announced a couple of days ago.
Yeah, and the only two materials that Makerbot Method printer can print is PLA or PETG. So we're going to discuss which one of those you should be using and which one we prefer overall. In our weekly topic, as announced, we don't always just talk about 3D printing and making, because we're both YouTubers. We sometimes also want to chat about YouTubing and doing that sort of thing. So we are going to take a look behind the scenes and check out what sort of content works and whether we should actually be making the content we want to make, or we should put our priorities somewhere else. All right, Stefan, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? So I finally just released like an hour ago my filament test video about the nano diamond filament, which I have just been putting off and off for weeks and weeks. But I finally, finished it. I'm kind of happy with the result. The filament is interesting, but not like the holy grail of 3D printing I was looking for. But so I have finally done that, and now I can finally go to new projects. Things like my new Dremel 3D printer behind me that I got provided as a loan unit from Dremel like 1.5 weeks ago, and I can play around with it and see how it performs, and if it would be a machine I would also be interested in. And also something which I have been looking for quite a while is paste extruders. So my channel is called CNC Kitchen. I don't know if I will be doing like food extrusion with that. I'm more thinking in the direction clay extruding. And I got one of these pretty nice linear actuator like stepper motors that instead of having a real axis in the motor, so in the motor rotor, it has like the trapezoidal nut on the inside. So you can have a trapezoidal lead screw in there, fix it at some place. When the motor rotates, the nut on the inside will rotate and more or less act like a linear actuator. I've never been working with one of these so far, but I'm really looking forward to. And they are unfortunately not as common as the normal stepper motors. They're kind of hard to get and kind of expensive, but they are like the perfect motors for doing like these paste extruders, because you don't have to fiddle around with complicated like kinematics to get the piston in your paste extruder to move. So this will be something coming up. I don't know when it's gonna be finished, but I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, sorry if I just looked confused because my phone just lost connection to my camera, but it's fine. Right. So the motor you have there is not one of those where it has the integrated lead screw as you would have on a 3D printer. It's kind of similar, right? So the actual spindle or the thing that's sticking out, I can't see a thread on there on your webcam, but that is actually moving through the motor itself.
Yes. So the motor, in the rotor of the motor, there is a nut included. So the nut is rotating when the motor rotates. And so, as I said, you can just hold one of this side, clamp it down, and then when the motor rotates, you have this linear actuation going on there. It's different to the integrated lead screw motors you find on Prusa printers and many other ones. But they are perfect for linear actuation.
Absolutely.
So, as I said, they're kind of hard to get and kind of expensive. But online.
Yeah, it's the 3D printer kind of multiplier effect, right? Stepper motors and LM8Us and precision linear rails used to be extremely expensive and hard to find before 3D printing took off. In fact, even though the ones with the integrated lead screw were kind of rare before manufacturers started using them. So maybe if that's something that works for 3D printing and for Z-axes or somewhere else pretty well, if people buy them, they're going to become more readily available.
I don't know if you would have a benefit if you had one of these as a Z-axis in your 3D printer. I don't think so. I think the normal nut works quite well there. But if you want to move something, this is pretty nice.
Yeah, and it has that benefit that basically because you're saying paste extrusion, you have a plunger in some syringe style thing. Basically, you stick that rod in your syringe and that pushes it down. It actually, let me see, it doesn't, that entire range of motion doesn't have to be like covered by your linear thread. Your thread moves. So yeah, that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, and you get these with different pitches. This one is a 2mm pitch, so you can you probably get quite a lot of force out of it. If you want to have something fast, you can also get these with 6 or 8mm pitch.
Yeah, so that's like a 4-start then, same as the Prusa printers use.
Yep. So
nice.
Pretty nice.
On the topic of the Dremel printer, Bosch actually, wrote me as well about that 3D 45, and I never got back to them. Apparently, you were quicker on the draw there. But
so they didn't give you one, or you just?
No, they wrote me an email. I never wrote back, as I do with so many emails these days, because it's just too much to handle, and I've got other things to worry about than requesting more 3D printers.
It's really weird for me, because I was so happy when the first company, I think 1.5 years ago, this was GearBest, wrote me an email and said, "Oh, do you want to have a free 3D printer?"
They seem to have written everyone back then.
Yeah, and this was so cool. But I have come to that point where I start rejecting 3D printers because, once I don't have the time to cover them in reviews.
Yeah, and it feels wrong accepting them and saying, "Yeah, you're sure, send it to me," and then you just never take it out of the box. And there's like 3 printers in my basement that are still waiting to be taken out of the box, and the box is starting to get soft from the moisture and all,
Yeah. And you have to put them somewhere in the end. So I already started putting some of them in my attic. Do you say attic? Attic?
Yeah,
I think that's a British word.
I don't know.
I have been giving some of them away to like younger people I know who I said, okay, I have some of them at home. I don't need them. Don't spend all of your hard-earned money on them. Just take one. But yeah.
Because we're at the point where it's going to come up in the comments, I'm sure. Why don't we just give 3D printers away? Why don't we run giveaways and stuff? And I've answered that a few times before, but I mean, some printers like the Prusas and the Ultimaker and the Sigma, I want to keep, because they're reference printers, and I can always go back to those and print something and be like, okay, this is what this machine prints at, which is a very popular model, and I can compare it to whatever other machine produces. But with cheaper machines, like some of the Chinese stuff that I don't really care about, that I don't need around, because it's just another one of those Sierra 10 or Ender 3 clones. It's, first of all, shipping is crazy expensive. If you if you ship internationally from Germany, it's going to cost something like $50-$60 to ship that print, and that's almost the price of an Ender 3 right there. Then you're going to have to deal with imports and taxes and customs and that mess. You have to run the giveaway. Yeah, of course you can run it with Gleam and like gain Twitter subscribers and or followers and that sort of thing. But it's such a big deal to do. It's going to be expensive, and it's also, then you give a printer away, and whoever you give the printer to usually kind of expects you to hold their hand and to walk you through the process, and that can add up in time, quite significantly. So I don't know. I'm kind of doing the same thing as you are. I give them out to friends where I know, okay, they're not going to bother me about it, or they know how to handle them, or I take them apart for components, because the components I can really use. Another Ender 3 clone, not really.
Yeah, but maybe staying on the topic of the Dremel, one of the reasons why I accepted this one is that, because I'm already looking since quite a while for a fully enclosed printer I can use to run my ABS, my nylon, my polycarbonates in there. And this was a machine that on first glance seemed to be a candidate which could be usable for that. Working with the printer for like a week now, it's a nice machine, but the GUI and the software is kind of dumbed down because they are aiming towards the educational market. And I kind of feel that this is a waste because the machine itself is pretty nice. They have dynamic drivers in there. They have a 32-bit board. They have a direct extruder in there, fully enclosed, charcoal filter, all of that shenanigan.
All right. How much is it?
$1,500.
$1,500. If it performs, that's not too bad for what you get. I mean, the features you're listing down, it sounds pretty nice.
It's nice, and it is in the well. It's cheaper than an Ultimaker. It's cheaper than I think the Race 3D printers, the Sortrex, which are also going into that direction.
Sortrex are actually way cheaper than that. The M200 you can get for $700 on sale at times.
So, and you have like a Wi-Fi controller in there. It's like fully print in the cloud, which is working very well. But as I said, it's kind of dumbed down. You can't change the extrusion factor while you're printing. It's kind of hard to use a material which is not a Dremel material in the printer. You can't control the case fan. It's working with another material, but changing the settings is kind of a hassle, and you have to turn on an expert mode and everything which is connected to that. I would really love to have this printer with a switch where you have an expert mode and can change all of the same settings as you have with a standard 3D printer, and then I think this would be a great machine.
But the problem is, as soon as you have like an expert mode where you allow people to change things, then you have people messing stuff up, and then they're going to come back to your support and be like, hey, this thing doesn't work anymore. Can you please help me fix it? And then you have this whole thing you have to walk through, like, hey, did you actually change this or did you do that? Yeah. And if you just don't give users that option, you know exactly what they didn't do, at least.
Yeah, it always warns me that if you're using other material than the Dremel material, you will void your warranty.
Which isn't that like illegal, at least in Europe? 2D printer, inkjet manufacturer cartridges, inkjet printer manufacturers have been losing in court when it comes to replacement inkjet cartridges voiding warranties. So,
but I can understand that if bad ink is clogging your inkjet printer,
if you have problems with the printhead specifically, but if your paper feeder breaks, they can't claim, okay, you've used the wrong ink and then this broke.
And that's totally fine. But if the ink is screwing up your printhead, that's fine. And if the filament is screwing up the extruder, okay, I can understand that. Yeah, it's.
I feel like it should be the same for 3D printers. Yeah.
I don't know. So I think, Dremel, they have all their support network and everything. So if you have a problem with the printer, I guess they gonna provide good support there. So I can understand that they are like taking precautions that not everyone is screwing up their printers because they use their own settings and their own materials. But for me, as a more professional maker, I see kind of a lot of potential that is wasted there. But as I said, I've just been working with this machine for a week. I'll see how it performs and see if there might be use cases for that. And I think, for educational purposes, it is a nice machine because it's enclosed. Kids cannot just stick their fingers directly to the printhead, and the software works fine, the cloud works fine, and all of that. But some wasted potential there.
Well, and Dremel is part of the Bosch group, so I think they've got the support and all that figured out.
Definitely, yeah.
You know what other printer has Wi-Fi and a touchscreen and an enclosure and is aimed towards a less hackery, makery audience?
Are you talking about Makerbot?
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about that one while we're at it. So you mentioned the enclosure on the Dremel printer. And as
Yes.
far as I'm aware, enclosure, fully enclosed machines is something that nobody else can do because it's a patent held by Stratasys, aka Makerbot. At least, I mean, I know for sure the actively heated chamber, but fully enclosed,
I'm not sure there. And well, I was at Formnext and I was also taking a look at some professional FDM 3D printers, and lots of them were fully enclosed and some of them had heating. Some of them told me that, yeah, we are not like, how do you say? They're not patent, they're not... They're not.
Yes. No.
Well, it's not a problem with the patent because they're not actively heating it.
Right.
Because they're using the
They're
print bed, or
not
some of
infringing
them.
on the patent.
Yeah, infringing. This
There
was
you
the
go.
word I was looking for. Thanks for the help there. I'm not 100% sure there. I would need to check the patents. And I thought that some of the patents from the active build chamber just like outdated a couple of weeks, months, or something
Really?
like that ago.
Ooh,
So,
that would be nice.
but don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
I have heard that somewhere. But this could be one of the reasons why more and more FDM 3D printers with actively heated build chambers are popping up on the market, and they are not afraid that Stratasys is suing them for that. But maybe let's get back to the Makerbot.
Yeah, so at least Makerbot are claiming, so I'm quoting the website here, designed from the ground up, leveraging industry-leading Stratasys patents, including a heated build chamber, precision dissolvable supports, and dry sealed material base. So they're listing the heated build chamber as a patent that they're using, essentially. So I guess, I don't know. If someone's infringing on them, well, it's up to Stratasys to take them up, right?
Yep.
The Makerbot method. They've been, going pretty wild on marketing and pushing out that fact that, hey, we have a new 3D printer, and it's been a while since Makerbot released something of substance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the method is what they are calling the world's first. Oh, I see that they've taken out the world. It's not just called the first performance 3D printer. The thing is that they never clarify what they actually mean by performance 3D printer. I mean, what defines a performance athlete? What is a performance car? What is a performance 3D printer? Like, bridging the gap between industrial and desktop 3D printing.
Well, they are at least saying something, print up to 2 times faster than desktop 3D printers.
Compared to popular desktop 3D printers when using the same layer height and infill density settings. Speed advantage dependent upon object geometry.
I don't know if, well, what is limiting the print speed of current 3D printers? I think we have already talked about that in one of the past episodes, but well, maybe it's stiffer. Maybe they have optimized their materials that they flow better through the nozzle. Maybe they have a better like cooling performance in there that, for example, for PLA, everything solidifies quite fast. I would be interested to see some of these printers printing at 120 millimeters a second, because that is pretty fast.
They don't really give you like movement speeds here, as far as I'm aware. But let me see that they are explicitly touting a stiffer frame with like a steel center core. And there are numbers on it. So print head travel speed up to 500 millimeters a second. So travel speed, not print speed, I guess. 500 millimeters per second and 50 cubic millimeters per second of material flow rate. That is actually quite impressive. So on a typical print with, let's say, 0.15 millimeter layers and normal speeds, you get something like 10 cubic millimeters max. So if they're saying 50 cubic millimeters per second flow rate, that is quite a lot more than what you get on your normal desktop consumer printers. They do actually have a cost calculator here on the site. And it's not just a cost calculator, it's also a print time calculator. So One of the models that they're showing here is, for example, a maze cube. So like a Hilbert curve infilled 50% PLA, 50% PVA supports 10 by 10 by 10 centimeters. And it's like 4 layers or 5 layers of PLA. Then you have nothing where you need support. Then you have another PLA. It's kind of a snake structure. 10 by 10 by 10. I would have guessed if you print that on an Ultimaker 3, which is kind of your slow to normal speed supported printer, that would take you probably a day to print. And Makerbot are claiming 7 hours single part print time, which is crazy fast. I mean, 7 hours doesn't sound fast, but comparing to what the alternatives are, that could be pretty, I'm not going to say revolutionary, but pretty good in comparison. And really that they're positioning the printer against outsourcing your prints, giving your prototypes to a third party and having them printed on an SLS or SLM machine. That's what they're selling it, and they're saying, okay, you're going to have your return of investment within 3 weeks if you print this many parts a week. And that's really who they're going for.
Well, I can maybe talk a little bit about my experience with that, because we have like Ultimakers at work where we do lots of fixtures and things like these. And one of the reasons why we bought more printers was that we had to print more parts. So having a faster printer will help you in, getting more parts out faster. But what else they are aiming towards is, in the morning, you make your prototype and you want to see like the finished prototype at the end of the day. And that could be helping you. And taking a look at the price, $6,500, it might look pretty expensive at first glance, but the new Ultimaker also is in that price range.
The S5,
Yeah, which makes it pretty competitive.
It is probably a direct competitor to the S5. I mean, looking at the S5 also has the enclosure, kind of half enclosure with the doors up front. Similar size, right?
No, it's not similar. It is just 190 by 190 by 190 millimeters.
Smaller, but
yeah.
Okay. But I guess the market segment is similar.
Yeah. And one of the things is with the PVA supports, this is aimed towards like aesthetic prototypes. So you will not like print fixtures and simple parts with that. They wanna have you print like complex structures with that printer. And I think this is pretty nice. The question is, as always with PVA supports, does it take another day to, dissolve the PVA supports?
Yeah.
Because this is always a problem, at least when I'm working with the Ultimaker or at home with PVA support. If you don't have like a heated ultrasonic bath that is also like...
that has a ton of flow through it with a pump or something.
I usually just calculate a day for dissolution of like a complex supported part.
So what they are showing, basically, that they have this video playing on their side where it's, okay, CAD, print, rinse, and then part. And the rinse is literally just somebody dunks it into water, you have the bubbles splashing up. The next shot is you have the completely clean part that is being pulled out. So... that might be a bit of a compression of time there. But yeah, any type of PLA, especially the stuff that is more easily printable, like the Ultimaker specific one, which this kind of looks like, to be honest, is going to take a while to dissolve, at least to dissolve to that state where it's actually clean. You're going to get it to, okay, I don't see it anymore because it is soaked up water, but that doesn't mean it's completely gone and flushed out. Yeah, that of course is something to add into the calculation.
But, despite having like a faster printer, the question is, what are they talking about if they're saying, that this is the first performance 3D printer? Is this just the print speed? Is this also better accuracy? Are there any other features in there? As I think you have said before, the materials that should be used with that printer are PLA and PETG. So
they don't have a heated bed. they do not have a heated bed, which is something that is unspeakable of at that price point. But they do have that heated chamber, and it's not just an enclosed chamber. As we were talking about earlier, it is actually an actively heated chamber. So they've got a fancy graphic in here where apparently in the sides where your Z-axis would go, there's literally like aluminum heat sinks that are connected to heaters, and there's air blowing out them. So you have like this cyclone of hot air streaming over your print constantly.
But the question is, if you're working with PLA, why would you want a heated build chamber? Because that usually degenerates your prints.
Yeah, I guess it must be connected to your material profiles, right? So for PLA, I don't think it would actually turn that on.
So they have Makerbot Precision Materials PLA Tough, which is the PETG.
Probably. No, the Tough is I think just a modified
that's the
PLA.
Tough PLA. Okay.
Yeah.
And then PETG and more to come. But that kind of limits the materials you can print on that machine, because if you don't have a heated bed, I don't see a real possibility that you can print ABS or nylon with this machine.
Well, with the heated chamber, you'd be surprised how much a heated chamber makes of a difference if you have the right bed material.
Yeah, you could be right there. And if you're using like a raft or like really big brims on the outside, yeah.
I was looking for the spec how hot that gets, but yeah. But then again, I don't think ABS is really something they're aiming towards, just because ABS has taken such a dump in or decrease in usage over the last years, months.
But wasn't ABS like the material for the Makerbot in like the old days?
Yeah. Because that was something I think they could control extrusion and printability wise. And PLA was always tough with, hey, you need to have part cooling figured out. You need to have a hot end that doesn't jam with PLA. Those sorts of things. I think it's easier to get to like a low to mid-range quality level with ABS, and then PLA kind of requires you to have a few more things figured out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But so all in all, I still think that at the moment they are aiming more towards like aesthetic prints, just taking a look at your parts, and less into the direction of functional prints. At least, well, if they're not like temperature loaded and things like these. Yeah. Also, one really interesting thing is, and this is something which I guess also sets that printer off from the Ultimaker, is the dry sealed material base. Because if you're working with PVA, moisture is always an issue. Ultimaker has figured their PVA out quite well, so you can leave the PVA out for a couple of days and it will still remain kind of printable. But still, if it's hot outside, if it's summer, if it's humid, your PVA will be done in a couple of days if you, don't look for that. And if you have like compartments where you can put into your material, it's definitely better for the print quality in the end.
Yeah, I've noticed one thing about the filaments is it doesn't say that you can use like any other material than Makerbot spools. I think somewhere it says that it's like RFID smart spools. Yeah, smart spools with RFID sensors. So I'm feeling like they've actually, and supported materials is just the Makerbot materials. I feel like this is going to be a fully chipped and fully locked down printer.
Mm-hmm. But the question is, do you know how much the materials cost?
No.
Because,
you can go to pre-order and get a bundle and kind of see what that bundle would be worth. Let me check that real quick.
I think they're the old materials.
Tough mixed pack. 6 spools sell for $600. So you can get a tough mixed pack. Yeah. 6 spools and 3 spools of PVA. Okay. So 6 spools of a modified PLA plus 3 spools of PVA are $600. So it's...
Is that like
expensive.
Half a kilo per roll, or
I don't know.
A kilo?
Doesn't
because
say.
If you're spending that, so a normal maker, I guess, won't spend that much on a 3D printer. At least I wouldn't.
For sure.
But if you are a company and if you want to use that printer for your prototypes and it has to work, I think usually spending a bit more on the material and just then have everything working is usually acceptable, and I can understand that in some way. Yeah, it is expensive, but if you buy such an expensive machine, you expect it to work. And okay, they could still have given the user the possibility to add their own materials, but on the other hand, maybe most of them anyways buy the more expensive Makerbot material because they know that it works.
Yeah.
So it's nah.
I'm just checking Ultimaker materials here, and Ultimaker sells for 40 euros per
for 750
grams. Yes, for PLA. The PVA is probably more expensive.
It's the same amount for the 350 gram spools. So it's pretty expensive.
Yep.
And Makerbot, they are also selling 750 gram spools. So it is a little bit more expensive than the Ultimakers, but not like that much.
Yeah. Well, if it can print faster, that's going to save you money in the end, right?
And
it
always depends
I think,
what you want to do with it.
Yeah, but the speed, I think, even though they are not doing a great job of pointing that out, the speed, I think, is the main feature of this printer. They do have the extra long heater blocks, essentially, on their hot ends. And they are pointing that out. But 19:1 dual drive gear ratio extruder greater torque thing.
Marketing.
Speed is the big thing for this Makerbot method. And I mean, if Makerbot make it happen, if they are able to make a fast printer feasible and kind of how does this translate into English? They get people hooked on the idea of, hey, we can have this process be so much faster. Then I think that's going to, get other companies inspired to imitate that, and maybe we're going to see faster 3D printers after all.
Yes, finally. Speaking of our first podcast. Yeah. Well, other companies can get inspired maybe by really good ideas that Makerbot had in making this printer. So in the end, it could be beneficial for all of us. And I'm also impatient. So I would really like to see faster printers at some point because not everyone has the advantage of having like 10 printers at home.
Yeah.
If you have a project and you want it fast, it's kind of hard for me to wait like half a week to get all of the parts done.
Yeah. And if you want to know more about our opinions on faster or larger printers, check out the early which episode was that?
I think it was the pilot, wasn't it?
Was it 0?
It was 0, I guess, or the first one. One of those.
Episode 0, our pilot. Yeah, so go check that out if you want to know more about where we stand on that topic. Should we move on to the PLA or PETG discussion? I don't think there's much to say to that. Is there?
On the discussion, PLA or PETG?
Yeah.
I think it would be like a good point now to talk about that, because I always struggle with my own opinion on whether I should use more PETG or if my PLA prints are totally fine for the moment. So I currently print like 80 or 90% in PLA at home because it just works. It always sticks to the bed. It sticks to all of the print platforms I have at home. It doesn't really have a huge moisture issue, and it is a strong material after all.
It's really convenient, right?
Yeah, it is convenient.
Yeah. The two big points of issue I have with PLA is, first of all, temperature, obviously. If you don't have something that you temper intentionally, PLA is going to soften at 45, 50 degrees Celsius. So as soon as you have anything connected or touching that might heat up, be it in a car where it's sunlight or some motor or whatever else that heats up, PLA is just out of the question. And the other one is that it creeps under load. So if you have it mechanically stressed, say you have a bolt or a screw going through it and have a washer, and you're going to see that impression of that washer after a few hours, even, where it just squishes the material, and it kind of, you retighten it, and then it squishes more, and it just deforms the entire part over time. So that is my big, inconvenience with PLA. But overall, if it's stuff that's just made to look good or fits onto something, then it's fine, right?
It is fine, but maybe let's talk about the creep issue, because you have been, mentioning that already for a couple of times, and I have actually never really seen that so far, and I'm already thinking for quite a while about performing a creep test for different materials. I have been taking a look at the standard the standards where it's plastics are usually tested with, but I didn't really find an easy to do method for the moment. So yeah, of course plastics creep, but I think the thing is that PLA, so the glass transition temperature, is like around 50 to 60 degrees Celsius. So it shouldn't really creep that much. But there are other materials like, I guess, PETG, where the glass transition temperature is actually below 0 degrees. I don't know if it's PETG or nylons.
It's PP or PE. Those are below zero, like negative 50 or negative 80 degrees Celsius.
So they are kind of a, not stable substance at the temperatures we usually use them.
What does the glass transition temperature actually tell you about a material? Because I've always felt like the glass transition temperature is such a poor measurement of what a material is going to do. Like, of course you can put your PE cutting boards into the dishwasher and they're not going to melt, right? You can use them at room temperature. They're not going to flow off your table because they've melted, right? There are other numbers like the Vickert softening point that I feel like are way better indicators of what the usable temperature range of a certain polymer are. Now, for many materials, those the glass transition temperature and the Vickert softening point, they are kind of in the same range. They meet up, but for others, it's way different. They're in entire different orders of magnitude. So yeah, I mean, my experience with material creep is just anecdotal evidence, and that's not the best evidence you can have. So yeah, some actual testing on that would be nice.
Yeah, I would really like to see that, because as I said, I haven't seen that much evidence with my parts I have done so far. For example, I have clothes hooks downstairs that are like 3 years old, and every day they're really heavy jackets hanging on there. They are still looking the same as on the first day.
Yeah, it's always about crossing a certain stress
threshold.
Try saying that fast 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
So depending on the temperature of your material, you can have a certain stress concentration or a stress on each point where it's not going to creep over time. And the closer you get to your softening point, the lower that stress is going to be. It might just be that, over some slight temperature cycling, the PLA gets closer to that softening point.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about PETG then?
So just today I've printed another part in PETG, but this was like a bracket for a stepper motor. So I thought, okay, I will take PETG due to the advantage of having like a higher temperature resistance. This is where I usually think about using that material. And also, all the Prusa printers, all the parts of the new Prusa printers are now not ABS anymore, but they are PETG besides the
some extruder parts, are still ABS, but everything else is PETG.
So this is kind of a lot of evidence that that material works quite well. It can be used at elevated temperatures. They haven't switched to PLA for obvious reasons so far. But yeah, still, I always feel printing PETG is not that easy as PLA, just due to the reason that you have more stringing, that it has kind of a moisture issue. I had sticktivity issues in the past, but this was from filament. From my first experience with printing PETG like 3 or 4 years ago. I think this is not the case anymore now at the moment. And if you load PETG fast and it has been taken up some moisture before the printing process, it can be quite brittle.
Yeah, that is, I think E3D actually demonstrated that once with their edge filament, where you take it, the prints look almost the same except for a bit of extra string with a wet filament. But overall, you couldn't tell with a finished print, like it doesn't bubble like a nylon. But then you take a hammer to your part, and the dry filament, or the filament that was printed dry, just has the hammer bouncing off, and the wet printed one snaps in half and just breaks like a glass. And apparently there is something going on where the actual moisture reacts with your with your polymer chains and kind of breaks them up as they're being heated. So it's kind of, as the water evaporates violently, it rips the polymer chains apart and makes it more brittle and weaker. So yeah, moisture is a definite issue with PETG, even if it doesn't look like it when you're printing it. Now,
what are you preferring when you're printing, like normal parts?
Normal parts. No, I mean, when it's anything mechanical, I have a tendency to use PETG. That being said, I often end up using PLA because I feel like, okay, well, it's, this printer already has it loaded. Why not just go with it? And it's probably going to be fine. Yeah, most of the stuff I print is PLA just because it's good enough. I hate using that term, but it comes up so often, it's kind of relevant. Yeah, PLA is good enough for so many things, right? It's not going to melt if you just hold it in your hand. It's okay for like phone cases or simple prototypes, or where you just need something that, has that shape. Then PLA is totally fine. And for the record, I don't blame anyone using PLA. It's a good material, and as we've both shown, it as long as you don't add heat to the equation, it can be quite strong as well.
Yeah. So as a conclusion,
yeah,
as always, it depends.
They're both good materials. One's a bit harder to print than the other.
Yeah. But still, I don't know. So if you don't use PLA or PETG, which is like the next higher technical material you are usually, aiming towards? Is it ABS? Is it nylon? Is it even polycarbonate?
Actually, I end up using, nylons I very rarely use, just because of you just have such a large step in print settings and in just requirements for printing a nylon itself. So usually my step up is to some ABS-like material, whether that's ASA or HIPS or ABS itself. That's my next step up for stuff that is, a stepper motor mount, for example, for a stepper motor that gets hot. Yeah, what do you usually use?
I don't really like to use ABS or ASA or HIPS a lot, just due to the smell issue.
Depends on the filament quite a lot.
It depends on the filament, yes. And as we have talked before, this is one thing I would have liked I would like the Dremel printer to be. Like a printer fully enclosed, charcoal filter, particle filter in there. And then I can even print ABS parts in my office. I have an enclosure down in the basement that I use for printing ABS, but I also rarely do that. To be honest, I mostly go to nylons because I have a dry box that is usually loaded with nylon. So I just get the Bowden tube out of there and then plug it directly in one of the printers. And that's usually working pretty well. But it is definitely a step up. You sometimes have like issues that the part doesn't want to stick to the build platform, but there are also new print sticks to help that's working. but yeah, it's a step up. And well, nylon or ABS is usually the material I aim towards.
Yeah. It's that specialty solution for where our other materials don't work. And, it's not the preferred choice.
Nah.
Right. And to this or that was about PLA or PETG. So cool.
PLA plus or tough PLA is something, if you have a more mechanically loaded part, you should be looking towards. It still has the temperature issue, but it is way more ductile and how would you say? It can take a beating.
Yeah, it's more impact resistant. Basically. Though I've not had the best experiences with the modified PLAs because they some of them just didn't end up being stronger than the PLA. They ended up being way weaker. They're more ductile, yes, more impact resistant, but the actual tensile strength just took a dump. But that's going to very much depend on the specific material used, because every manufacturer has put something else into their modified PLA material.
Yep. You're right there.
All right. Weekly topic, YouTube. Where do I start with this? I'm feeling the same thing right now, talking about YouTube and what content we should make. This is not a happy and a universally getting excited about this topic. This is something serious and something that doesn't really have a solution that makes everyone happy, and that is also a problem on YouTube itself. If you make content that doesn't adhere to that rule, if it's not content that makes everyone happy, it's not going to get as good of a response. But let's start from the basics, right? We've both been making YouTube videos for a while.
Yeah. You have been making YouTube videos as a full-time YouTuber for like 1.5, 2 years now?
I think 2.5 years. I've lost track of time.
2.5 years. Oh my God, we're getting old.
Yeah, I can feel it in my back. I spend like 8 hours a day in this very chair, and it's...
So you are way more dependent on making videos, making revenue out of videos, getting views from your videos than I am. For me, yeah, it's kind of a nice bonus, and it's getting more in the direction that I'm thinking about. Is it worth spending more time and maybe making this thing like also a full-time job for me? But at the moment, it's a bonus, and it's like a personal thing. If videos get a lot of views, I'm happy that lots of people like the content I make.
Yeah,
but
and
for
your content has been doing really well.
Oh yeah. So the last video I did like 5 years ago, 5 weeks ago about the filament extruder, it just exploded. It exploded my channel. It has 330,000 views at the moment. It's crazy, and this is something which kind of makes me happy. I don't know. I just need to get the assurance that what I do people like, because if that wouldn't be the case, I wouldn't be happy doing that. I wouldn't spend all of the time doing that. I wouldn't like waste all of my weekends for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the moment this is great. This is great. But the thing is, most of the time, this is like your one shot, like your one viral video, and you need to be aware that the next one probably won't be like that, and you don't have to be upset if that happens.
Yeah. So how do you right now decide what content you make and what you just do yourself and don't make a video about?
Well, since I'm kind of time limited, I don't really do that many projects anymore that don't get videoed, unfortunately. This is something I'm kind of upset about, because making videos about your projects always like takes 5 times as long as you would just do it. But still, since I am in like the position where I don't need to make videos for making money, I try to do things I'm really interested in. But still, the things I am usually interested in are things where there isn't that much content around, and where I think other ones would be interested if they would see what would be possible there. So filament making, recycling, 3D prints was something where I've always read some small things. Is it possible? Is it not possible? The ones are saying this, the other ones are saying that. So I wanted to try it out on my own, and I wanted to show like my experience with that, and maybe that way inspire other people. So this has been a topic many people were interested in, and it just, I wouldn't call it viral, but it went kind of well.
It did do pretty darn well, yeah.
But, well, it's just not always the case. The other topics that I'm choosing, as I said, are things where I'm just interested in. We've been already talking about the paste extruder. I want to make my own espresso cups with clay that was extruded from my 3D printer. There is some content about that already around, not that much, so I think it's worthwhile. It's just working in that direction, but it's also something I'm really interested in. I wouldn't really like to make videos about things that I don't like, because I need to find the motivation to do these videos. And if I'm not motivated, I don't like to work, and I make bad work. So this is just something that wouldn't work out.
Yeah.
But as I said, I'm in the good position that I'm not fully dependent on that. So the interesting thing, I guess, at the moment is the question: how are you usually tackling that problem, or that like issue, vicious circle?
What do you cover and what do you not cover?
Yeah.
I mean, we all only have so many hours in a day that we can put into work. Because I mean, for me, this is my job, right? This is my only, currently my only way of generating income, right? Making videos, putting it out there, getting the support from Patreon, getting the ad revenue, sponsorships, affiliates, all that sort of thing. So for me, I really have to decide, okay, what do I put my time into? Is it the stuff that I feel like is important to cover? That I want to cover, or is it the stuff that I see is getting views and that I see people will watch and that it will go viral? And in the last, in pretty much the entire time that I've been YouTubing, I've always done that, where I just pick stuff that I was interested in and things that I thought were important to show out there, like recently the interviews with Adrian Boyer or Gino Heuske, or covering some of those things. And the entire reason why I'm bringing this up is because those videos have performed rather poorly. I've been getting really good feedback about them. Like, people were loving them, but not a lot of people were watching them. And I don't blame viewers for this. I think people would be really interested in that. I blame it on just the algorithm, as so many YouTubers do, but it's a real thing. It's those niche videos are really hard to justify pouring the time and love and effort into. So at the point where YouTube is your job and where it is a business, from a realistic standpoint, I've talked to different people about this, and they all are like, hey, you should really do this, and I'm like, well, that's not what I want to do. But really, you have to go in and say, okay, this video is probably going to perform this well, and it's going to take me this long. Is it worth it? Like, I've not published an Ender 3 review yet. Creality Ender 3. I'm sure that would get, I would easily get 6 figures in views. But I've just felt like, okay, there's so many things still up in the air. Like, what sort of company is Creality? And that recently we've started figuring that out, and they're not as bad as some others. And it's tough, man.
Well, the thing I'm always trying, and this is which is really hard for me from time to time. You create quality content, and the thing is, you need to get the viewers to watch your content, and it is a little bit bribing them into clicking on your video, and this
Oh, yeah.
involves creating clickbaity titles and clickbaity thumbnails.
Yeah.
I really often feel bad about that, but I feel bad about doing these because it would be better if I would not have to do them, but they are necessary at the moment because otherwise you don't get any views.
Absolutely. If it doesn't, well, here's some rules, some fixed laws of YouTube. It's like if you have the best, the most, the world's insane, if you have anything like that in your title, you're easily going to get 3 times or 4 times the views, even if the content is exactly the same.
Yeah.
But also, it's not just getting people into watching your videos and then realizing, hey, this is actually good stuff. It's also about, what I started this segment with. It's about positivity, and I know a lot of like the big guys, Casey Neistat, Peter McKinnon, those guys that I do look up as YouTube stars. No, as people who have successfully mastered YouTube. They've talked about this too, and you can very definitely see it in the videos. As long as it's, they show the things where they're enthusiastic about, where they're having a good time. But as soon as they don't feel well. Casey Neistat, he did his daily vlog, and then he stopped at some point because it was like, okay, I'm burned out. I have to go back to a more irregular schedule because not every day I feel like I'm super hyped about this thing. And it's the same with products. It's the same with projects. If you're not super enthusiastic about something, if you're not happy about how a product performs, like I've got the review of the Monoprice Delta Pro coming up, which I've got mixed feelings about. I know, that video is not going to perform as well as a hypey Ender 3 review. It's just, it's painful, but I've not found a solution for that yet. I know Patreons support us, right, for putting our honest opinion out there and for showing like the entire thing. But on the other hand, if a video gets 10,000 views and is liked by patrons versus a video getting 550,000 views and maybe not having a lot of substance, like where do we draw that line? I'm sure we're making this sound I'm making this sound quite complicated. And as a viewer, you might not have the full picture on this, but I don't know if you guys watching or listening have input for this. Let us know.
Yeah, so I think we're both in the good position that we have these Patreons because they enable us to make kind of unbiased reviews of things.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it is always the thing, if you are posting a video about a product that is bad, you won't get any affiliate income over that.
Oh, yeah.
So why is it worth making a video about that? And this is the hard thing. And this is what I really dislike about many other YouTubers, that even though a product is not good, I don't say the S word at the moment, they are just advertising that. And they're advertising it because they're making their money with the affiliate sales. And the Patreons, they enable us to still invest time if a product is not that good and get the information out there that they can make a good decision on their next purchase.
And we're not saying that, YouTubers who kind of don't put out critical content, that they're kind of deceiving the user. They're just not telling the whole story.
Yeah.
It's not that they're lying about it. It's just, unbox therapy, very classic example, right? Very rarely critiques a product, but mostly it's a channel about unboxing something, showing the first impression, showing the things that are cool about a product, but not really going into the depth of this is cool, but that's the whole other part of the picture.
Yeah.
But
this is a really hard thing. I'm also always struggling with that because I want to view videos that also put like valid criticism on products, and I want to do that as well because if I am presenting something, I don't just want to leave out details which might be something like which is breaking the product in the end. So but the thing is, every criticism you add to a video or you add to a review potentially lowers the sales of that product, and it then changes the decision on if you should do a review in the first place, because you need to earn some money with that.
Yeah. So again, I know for a fact, and you as well, right? We are incredibly grateful for patrons that support us, that make this possible. Without you guys out there, we would be forced to do an entirely different style of content. And I've actually got it written on my whiteboard right here. I think that the core question is what we want to do. You have a whiteboard there too? Nice. Nice, always in view. It's a big question of what do you want to do? Do you want to do entertainment or do you want to do education? And I think we're both kind of pretty hard in the corner of education, and we're going to entertain while it fits in. But the core is education, and education is going to be hard because it's something that, first of all, the viewer has to spend energy on, just paying attention and kind of putting some critical thought into what is presented to them. Versus when you have just something that is entertainment, they can lean back onto their couch, they can put up the video on their TV and just relax for a second and not have to put any thought into that. And there's, I think, way more of an audience for that sort of thing versus something where you have to invest critical thought yourself. And again, that is not a dig on viewers, that is just basic human nature. Anything that is uplifting is gonna, gain more traction.
Yeah.
So there we go. We've solidly ruined this episode of the podcast by including non-uplifting content.
You have also been including one sentence in our show notes. Rewind sums up the state of YouTube pretty well.
It's the most disliked video on YouTube now. It's kind of impressive, but it doesn't deserve that.
Yeah. It doesn't deserve that, and the thing is, we're also dependent on advertisers, but this just can't be everything.
Yeah, let me clarify the that doesn't deserve it. I mean, the video itself for sure deserves the downvotes it's getting, but Rewind is just such a good summary of the state of YouTube. That's the way I wrote it out in our show notes here. It sums up the state of YouTube. And if you're disliking the Rewind video, you should also be disliking every single video that ends up in YouTube trending. Because it is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just less cringy sometimes, but I don't know. Did you watch YouTube Rewind?
I actually watched it, yeah.
I couldn't bear the thing. I had to quit out at 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, well, I think I watched it like 2 or 3 days ago, and then I watched all of the videos from PewDiePie and Marquez, who also commented on like the like what everybody else or said about that video, all about the dislikes. So it is really interesting. Rewind was something pretty cool like 4 or 5 years ago, but
it started out as a good idea.
To get more and more advertiser friendly. So
the thing. Neither of us want to put out the idea of YouTube is dying because of advertisers, and it's such a, because we depend on YouTube. Well, you don't depend on it as much as I do, but we would be cutting off our own legs if we were dooming YouTube here. YouTube is good.
YouTube is great
if you put out the right sort of content, and if you shape the platform to what you think is right for it. Yeah.
And there isn't any real alternative for that.
There's Facebook video or something, right?
Well, at least the videos I get in my Facebook stream are way worse usually than anything that is in YouTube trending.
I don't know. I rarely open up Facebook. I can't comment on that.
One of the reasons why I started making YouTube videos, because I really like YouTube as a platform for gathering information. And there is lots of stupid videos around and videos that don't deserve the views. But on the other hand, there are so many creators that spend so much time on creating really great content.
Yeah.
And we're both adding to that, I hope.
I was going to say, at least that's our goal. That's what we hope to do, right?
But it is just sometimes hard making good content and seeing other ones who make like bad content.
Oh yes.
How do I put it?
No,
they get much more out of making bad content as you're spending your time on making good content, and this is kind of hard. But still,
at least what we consider is good content, right? The platform is the judge of that. If you don't get the views, it's not good content in that sense. It can hurt seeing a video that is, super sloppily done, that is incorrect in the information it puts out there, that just doesn't have any value to the platform. At least I don't think it does. Seeing it take off so much versus a video you've literally put, a full week into and kind of got frustrated at it and like, ugh. Then you put it out there and you think you've produced something good and it just, it takes a dump. That's the reality. So what I'm going to start doing more is first of all, I do have, I think I've talked about it. I do have an editor editing for me that I can just shoot content over to, shoot some shot stuff to, and be like, okay, please edit this. I don't want to have to deal with it. I don't want to, spend my energy on dissecting that video and having to deal with it. So I can stay positive. I don't have to get frustrated on editing. By the way, Premiere Pro is a bit more stable now. I
with
feel like.
The 02 release or something like that.
Yeah, there's some updates made it a bit better, but editor, and also I'm gonna be putting more effort into scoring videos, into prioritizing videos, and making sure I put my energy into shooting and producing the right stuff that is both informative and worth the time to invest into it. And I'm actually not sure. I mean, I've mentioned it before, the Rep documentary that I've already spent so much time on. I'm not sure where that's going to fall on that scale. I'm afraid it might not score well in the, is going to get views. People are going to be interested in it, and it's going to be a ton of work to produce the content I've already shot into something that is watchable. I'm not sure if that's going to be worth it. So, yeah.
Have you ever thought about making a Kickstarter or something like that for it? Like seeing if it is worth doing, if there are enough people who are interested in that?
I would feel bad about that because I already have community support from Patreon, and it's like, okay, you're getting paid from these guys. Why do you ask for more money here? I'd have to make a really good case for asking for extra funding for that.
No, you're totally right about that. I think it will be something that is interesting. It always depends on, how you put it in the end. If you can get people who are watching directly from the beginning involved in everything, but
it's tough.
It is tough, but I think at the moment there is nothing in that direction. Somewhere in a condensed manner where people can get informed about that.
Yeah. I mean, that topic, that Rep doc is such a big topic. It's such a big burden, or burden is the wrong word. My expectations for that piece are so high because it's such an essential piece of what 3D printing or why 3D printing is. And it gives so much context to everything else we do. I don't want to rush it. I don't just want to throw it out there. I do want to put the hours in if I'm going to release it. I do want to do it right. And that's going to be at least a month or two of editing and putting that into, which means less content on the regular channel. So I'm
really looking forward to that. Maybe some other videos will have the question, will this maybe, if you spend that amount of work in there, also something that could be released also in German? Have you ever thought about that?
Ooh. I mean, the interviews I've shot are of course all English, so I'd have to dub them or give them subtitles.
Subtitles? But I'm always thinking about if you put really that much effort in a documentary, and yeah, most of the people who are currently watching both of our content, well, know English very well. But if I take a look at my viewers and the 3D printing community in Germany, there are many around who prefer content in German because it's just easier. And
I mean, for regular content like reviews or guides or scripted stuff, I found that it's really not, sorry Germans, fellow Germans, it's just really not worth putting all the extra time into like translating the entire script, re-recording everything, re-editing everything, because it's almost as much effort as producing the first one. And the viewership a German video gets versus the English one is like a fourth or a fifth of the amount. And at that point, it just, it is, again, really hard to justify that.
Yeah.
For something as large as a documentary, maybe we'll see. The thing is also, I look at my viewer stats, and yes, there is a large portion of Germans that are viewing, maybe because I've started out, making German and English content. But my thought is always, hey, Germans, typically at least understand English to a degree where they can follow along what's happening. Even if they, most Germans are kind of afraid to speak English in public, but most really understand stuff well. And if you have a scripted video, you have the subtitles in the video in YouTube itself. So the subtitles you see under the video, if it's a scripted one, are exactly what I'm saying there. And Google Translate does a rather decent job translating those to something that, at least helps you understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It is really nice to see a little bit the transition of your video style from your last videos. You're doing things you are really interested in. The project videos are like kind of different as you used them before, but the quality is the quality is great. The quality is something you probably only see at like This Old Tony or Alex Steele or something like that. It is great, but I think you already said it before. You're still finding the direction you want to go in, or am I putting that the wrong way?
Yeah, no. It's this is also something else that I'm looking at how long this episode is, but some people have commented, hey, long episodes are cool. But this is also something that's, tacking on to the, hey, what are we doing on YouTube? What the hell is going on there? YouTube kind of pushes you into a corner and keeps you there. It is extremely hard to break out of, one style of content or one like really laser focused subject that you're doing on YouTube into something else. Like, I don't feel like I can take my channel from just 3D printing to something that is more project and more maker and more DIY focused, which is something that I personally want to do, but I don't think I can do it on this one channel because I'm seeing the videos that kind of deviate from just 3D printing. I'm not blaming the viewers. I'm sure there are people that want to watch this sort of thing. It's just that it doesn't, the content doesn't align perfectly with what people are expecting on the channel, and it's kind of that ripple effect. Not enough people click on it, and it doesn't get recommended to enough people. Instead of YouTube recommending it to the people that could actually care about it, it just doesn't recommend it or show it to anyone. So I'm sure that's not the whole story, but YouTube does kind of lock you into what you've started out doing. And I keep looking at channels like the Lockpicking Lawyer or This Old Tony, or well, This Old Tony does experiment, but Lockpicking Lawyer, a guy who literally has a top-down camera view and picks locks open or breaks them. That is the entire thing he does, nothing else. And he gets really consistent feedback. He gets really consistent results from his videos. And there are a lot of other channels that have, a very, very laser-focused subject. and they do well. And the variety channel is someone like I like to make stuff. I think he's been incredibly lucky, and he's been doing it incredibly well that he can get away with so many different topics on the channel. But he has built the channel on that. He has built the channel on variety, on projects. So he can do that. If you've started out doing just 3D printing or just woodworking, yeah, it's gonna be hard to break out of that.
Yeah. Well, if you're not starting to make like beauty videos or something like that, it's not gonna be that bad.
There might be quite the overlap. Who knows?
You could probably make quite a lot of money there. Or looking at the view numbers of some of these beauty channels, I think they're getting rich. Well, no.
Oh yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, well, people subscribe to channels because, well, at least I do, because I am expecting specific content from that direction. And I know myself, if I regularly get content on that channel that is not what I'm expecting, I might even unsubscribe to them.
Yeah,
and this is the thing, well, we need to tackle. I would like to make some cooking videos on my CNC Kitchen channel, but I don't know if that would work out.
CNC cooking.
CNC cooking.
Yeah. I mean, subs don't really matter much anymore anyways, right? You can see channels that have a few hundred or a few thousand subs consistently get really good view numbers, if that's what you're going off of. And then other channels, I know, for example, Film Riot, who I'm subscribed to, YouTube doesn't really show me the videos they put out on the recommended or home screen or wherever else, and they get really poor views every video, even though they have over 1 million subscribers. They kind of are underperforming for what the channel is. So subs don't matter anymore, really, unless you have less than 100 maybe. Then
clickbaity thumbnails and titles, they unfortunately matter. But on the other hand, if you are good in that game, you can use that to your advantage. At least, well, like getting people watch your quality content, so they are not upset if they clicked your video. I guess to finish this topic out, because I feel like we're turning into a downer podcast here. One channel I really love watching is just the entire thing that Corridor does, Corridor Digital formerly. Do you know them? No. Okay. Corridor, like corridor?
As in, like, yes, thing you walk through, corridor. Okay. Joel actually has been apparently hanging out with Ren from Corridor at ThinkerCon. Yeah, and they've kind of become buddies on Twitter.
Yes, I know them.
Yeah.
From the GoPro Canon video, I think.
Yes, that's them. So what they do is, I mean, the content they put out is fantastic, both on their main channel, which is just the more cinematic, or actually cinematic, where it's actually short films. They put it on Corridor, and then they have their vlog, basically, about what's happening in the studio and what's going on, and more the experimental stuff. They put a ton of work into titles and thumbnails and descriptions and kind of focusing on actually getting the video out there and getting it seen. But also the content they put out is really well produced. It is fun to watch. It is educational sometimes. But I think if you have good content, you can get away with making loud content and thumbnails, titles and thumbnails that engages viewers. Yeah. Recommendation for you listening and watching, go check out Corridor and the Corridor Crew, I think is the new name of their vlog channel. And they've recently also started a podcast. How coincidental. Maybe we can link that below.
Yeah, I'll do that. I just don't need to. I just shouldn't
forget about it.
That. Here. Yeah, perfect.
Corridor podcast.
I guess taking a look at the time, I think we should stop the podcast for today.
Yeah,
just
it's almost
our
8 p.m.
listeners.
here.
Yeah, just that our listeners are not getting that upset about a podcast which is now 1 hour 20 minutes long.
Hey, pro tip for listeners: if the podcast is too long, pause it and come back at a later time. If you can't watch it in one sitting, in one go, just watch it in 2 parts. Like you can take a break of a podcast at any time. It's
and you can also listen to the podcast with your favorite podcast player on your phone, so you don't actually need to sit in front of your PC, tablet, or something like that. So just when you're cleaning the house next time.
Doesn't YouTube Premium also have background play?
It has.
Yeah.
But I haven't used that so far for podcasts. So you can also subscribe to YouTube Premium if you want to listen to our podcast.
Totally. Yeah, the podcast is now monetized. We've passed that magical threshold.
Yes,
we're getting rich.
We are getting rich. We have already made $1, I think.
let me check the stats here real quick.
I think it was 83 cents when I just checked it.
Last time I saw it, it was 52. So we've made another 30 cents. Let me see.
81 cents.
Ooh.
We are getting really rich.
Yeah, 81 cents. And actually, the surprising thing is YouTube Premium revenue is more than half of that. So in case you're wondering, hey, does YouTube Premium, take the cash for itself and not share it with the creators? No, YouTube Premium is actually very good in how much they pay out versus how much the regular ad buyers, I guess, pay and how much the creator gets. So yeah, YouTube Premium definitely is something that is good for creators.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I'm subscribed to them just because I don't need to watch any ads anymore and I don't have to use an ad blocker. And since I also see that I'm getting quite some, substantial, I don't want to say substantial, but some of my revenue is from YouTube Premium, and so at the moment I'm still subscribed. Maybe also the reason why I'm still subscribed is that I had the free subscription for 3 months and I didn't bother
Did you get that with
quitting
it so far or something?
Sorry?
Did you get that with a Google Pixel?
No, when they just announced it half a year ago in Germany, there was a 3 months free subscription that I, of course, took, and I haven't canceled it so far.
Oh, nice. And it's $10 a month, right?
It is 12, I guess.
12?
The thing I really like about that subscription is that YouTube Music is also included. It's not as good as Spotify.
I have Spotify already on Family Plan. I'm sharing that.
I don't have Spotify, and I was really not happy with the free version where you get ads all the time. So
no, that sucks.
YouTube Premium is now music and no ads on videos.
That's nice. So yeah, if you're looking into YouTube, do we have is there a YouTube Premium referral affiliate program making money off of our own ad earnings?
I'll check that. If there is, I'll put a link down in the description, but I don't think so.
Please do.
All right. So
cool.
I guess thanks for your time, everybody. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
thanks
sorry about not talking about 32-bit controllers. We'll do that next time.
We'll do that next time. So subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss that.
Yeah, subscribe on... Well, what are we missing? We're still missing one platform, right? Spotify is pretty hard to get into. They have some requirement and sign-up process. I guess they really moderate their content. But we're working on it.
So I guess what's just left to say is happy holidays.
Yeah,
we might be back before New Year's. We're not sure about that so far, but we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, as every time, right?
As
2 weeks. 2 weeks is working out pretty well.
Yep.
All right. Cool. So thank you for your time, Stefan.
Thank you for your time, Tom. And see you next one.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.